Hello Factorio engineers, welcome to part 8 of my Pyanodon's adventure. I reached 1000 hours in my journey, and in this episode I will be doing a longer tour covering my entire base. I will also talk about a few small mistakes I made. First, let's take a look at power generation. About 60 hours ago, I upgraded my power generation facility, and at least for the next 200 hours, I won't have to worry about power. My current consumption is around 50 gigawatts, and I'm planning to build this one before I hit the limit. But of course, that will take quite a long time. Crafting 10 fusion reactors is going to be exhausting. I will also remove these accumulators. Their capacity is very low and they cover too much space. Maybe I replace them with better ones in the future. The tech tree is now at 66.7% and I'm almost ready to produce production science packs. I expanded my hub a bit more. In addition to new buildings, I am now producing codexes and tier 3 locomotives and wagons. These trains instantly became my favorite. They are incredibly fast and their capacity is really high. Even though they look expensive at first glance, I honestly think they are very easy to produce. They use Nexelit battery as fuel, and it's also quite easy to craft. Since electronics don't require a large number of items, I assigned the task of bringing materials here to the bots. I finally upgraded all of my logistic and construction bots. I currently have more than 22,000 logistic bots, and as you can see, they are working very intensively. They are spread all across my base. At first, I had doubts about how effective running so many bots would be, but they performed much better than I expected. Their cargo capacity of 6 played a big role in that. The trains are also running constantly. I currently have more than 900 trains and I will gradually replace all of them with tier 3 ones. Before we start the tour, I just want to give you a quick update. We are slowly coming to the end of my Pyanodon's adventure. There are only 4 parts left. Right now, I'm updating the endgame base and I've managed to get the SPM over 500. In the final part, I will show everything in detail just like in this part. After that, I'm planning to move on to different overhaul modes. If you don't want to miss the last parts of my Pyanodon's journey and new series, don't forget to subscribe. Most of the views actually come from people who aren't subscribed, so I wanted to mention it at the start this time. Let's begin our tour from the far west. Here we have raw gas and saline water production. I have 6 saline water productions like this around the base. The Nexelit plate production chain starts here with these creatures. This is their food supply. The chain is already quite long and it's going to get much longer in the future. After the previous part, I had to add a bit more here. Currently, 10 trains are using this station, and logistic bots are also pulling materials from here. I also extended the antimony oxide production chain, but there is an issue. When I traced the problem back, I realized that the real bottleneck is actually in silver plate production. I noticed this shortage way too late, and I will talk about this when we reach that area. Anyway, once silver plate production returns to normal, the shortage here should be resolved. Right next to antimony oxide production, I am producing a few more materials. Demand for this isn't very high, so there is no need to build more. This setup is enough. This area is for coal, coal dust and cyanic acid production. I don't waste residual oil and residual mixtures, they are actually very useful. I convert residual oil into residual mixture and use it in these buildings. I definitely recommend doing this instead of voiding them. On this side, there are products coming from crude oil and steam, and all of them are routed somewhere useful. My tailings station is located here. I collect tailings from 9 different stations across the base and bring them here by trains. I currently have 4 Tier 3 trains and each with a 150,000 fluid capacity. I will increase the number of trains over time. I'm also planning to redesign this area because it's starting to feel insufficient. The tailings collected here are converted into coal water slurry, then into benzene and aromatics and used that way. Some of the tailings also used here. This production area is for vanadium pentoxide. It's not at the level I want, so I will build a completely new setup for this. Hydrogen peroxide production is also not performing as well as I want. Silicon production is here, but this setup isn't in a good shape either. We use this silicon for trichlorosilane and then convert pure trichlorosilane into electronic grade silicon. Unfortunately, we need a huge amount of this and it can be quite frustrating at times. All of these buildings are dedicated to high-grade copper production. There are 6 processing steps here, and before that we obtain copper solution using copper grade 4, and all of these come from these 2 zones. Each step also requires acid solvent, which is processed like this. In this area, I produce a few materials in smaller quantities. Let's take a quick look at those as well. My fuel storage is completely full. I updated the power generation area a bit and it should be enough for a long time. This building looks great. Right now it consumes about 2.3 thousand pressurized steam per second, but I have enough production to run it at full capacity. In addition to that, I have 7 geothermal plants scattered across the base. They also produce pressurized steam. I bring them here by trains. The temperature of this steam is slightly lower, but that's not an issue for now. I also placed an alarm here in case of unexpected situations. Even if everything seems to be working fine, a tiny overlooked detail can plunge the entire factory into darkness. We definitely don't want that, so it's better to be cautious. These buildings here are completely unnecessary and I will demolish them soon. This section is dedicated to lithium hydroxide production. There are 9 steps in total. This part is a bit complex, but it's the best way to obtain large amounts of uranium-238. You don't have to do it this way. There are other methods, but I chose this approach. This is the final step of it. We have now arrived at titanium plate production zone. I bring titanium grade 4 here by trains, and this is the initial processing area. After going through several steps, it turns into titanium plates and becomes ready for use. I will add more steps to this chain in the future and make it even more efficient. A bit further down, I have my molybdenum ore miners. The ore extracted here goes through 8 processing stages and eventually becomes molybdenum plates, which are stored in this deposit unit. My ammonia production is located here. Right next to it, I produce activated carbon, several different plants and flavonoids. This is one of my big phosphate mines. This area is for syngas and refined syngas production. I convert soot into silver plates, but I will switch this to gold once I fix the silver shortage. There are few different materials being produced here. I will improve these areas later on. I produce copper cables using casting units. Advanced casting is one of the key materials. Several different materials are produced in this area, and the electrolyzers are running almost non-stop. This is dedicated to niobium production, and it's sufficient for now. It goes to first processing step and eventually ends up here as niobium plates. Fertilizer production is also located here. There are many different recipes for it, but this is the one I decided to use. As I mentioned in the previous part, I started using open pit iron mines. This is one of them. And the other one is over here. I only use these to support the main production, which I will show shortly. Various small parts are crafted in this area, but it looks like there are some missing items. The most farms are in good shape, likewise log, wood and raw fiber production is running smoothly. This area is for pitch and creosote production. Creosote is especially important for sand casting and molten glass. Here I produce a few more materials: TCl, acetone and phenol. Since I had excess coal, I built another coal dust production area. These resources will run out soon and I will remove this setup entirely. The oil power plants I built early on are still here, but I will be removing all of them soon. I mostly use oil sand for dirty syngas production. I'm also planning to remove these accumulators. I won't need them anymore. Lithium peroxide and another part of activated carbon production are located here. I have plenty stored and I will use all of them soon. This is for watt brain production. Excess shale oil is converted into different products, and I'm using these for fuel. I also process condensates here into useful fluids and use them for fuel the buildings. I built this hot air production area recently. Previously I was using the coke oven gas recipe and I avoided the newer one because I didn't want to deal with the outlet gas. Later I realized that was a mistake and I switched to the new recipe. It's much faster, the ratios are equal, so it's much easier to build. If you have unlocked this recipe and struggling with hot air production, I definitely recommend taking a look at it. My sulfuric acid production looks terrible right now. I am planning to redesign this area once I unlock the new recipe. Here I am using the flue gas recipe. I produce huge amount of flue gas in this area and I don't want to waste it. Any excess is redirected into syngas production. I started using productivity modules very late, but they are extremely useful for materials like this. I will use them much more in the late game. Honestly, I really wish I had started using them earlier. Iron plate production is currently around 15,000 per minute and this zone is very busy. There are 18 trains using this station right now. I will upgrade these trains soon to reduce the traffic. Since I deplete iron mines very quickly, I set up an alarm here so I don't miss it. I have already depleted 4 mines since building this zone. I most recently used this mine but it's depleted now as well, so I'm currently mining from here. By the next part, this one will also be depleted and my next goal is to mine from these two. Production is sufficient for now, but I will completely redesign this area and extend the production chain to use the better recipes. Cobalt extract production is also located here. This is one of the annoying items, mainly because cyanic acid consumption frequently causes problems. A few minor items are produced in this area. They are not used much right now, but they will be needed later. This section is dedicated to industrial diamonds. It will be needed in large quantities later on. When placing buildings for this chain, I strongly recommend leaving space to expand. I will significantly increase production here in the future. I already showed the copper production area, so I'll skip here. Since the raw coal in this zone is almost depleted, I now have to bring it from here. Despite all these buildings, coke production is still barely sufficient. Trains keep this station busy at all times. I will be removing these hot air production buildings soon because I won't need them anymore. To fix my slag lime shortage, I unlocked this third recipe. Some of the iron ore is routed here to support main production. I cover my nitrogen shortage using this setup. This area was built for dirty syngas production, and I use the excess elsewhere. It's not at the level I want, unfortunately. This section produces many different plants and materials. Let's take a quick look. All of carbon dioxide needs are supplied from here. I currently have the capacity to produce 15,000 per second, and I can scale this up much further if needed, producing some advanced items that I don't need much right now. All of the MSA stored here was obtained by using this third recipe, and it should last for a long time. More plants produced around this zone. These are for salt-enriched biomass, and I use it for salt production. I may have overdone this a bit. I originally built it because I needed a lot of sodium carbonate, but the other product piled up as well. This setup is for phosphorus acid. Steam, ash, saline water, pure sand, stone brick, and stone production are also located in this area. This is my main molten glass production zone. Because of sodium carbonate shortage, it's not running as efficiently as I want, but still it is sufficient for now. Sugar, ethanol and wax are produced here. Cordex and Arcad are also in this area. I no longer have any issues with rubber production. This section is completely unnecessary. I stored large amount of this thinking it might be useful, but I barely used any of it by the end of the game. Plutonium isotopes keep piling up. I have accumulated a massive amount, but I will be using all of it soon. I bring uranium from farther away. Once this area is depleted, I will switch to this one. This should be enough until the end of the game. I convert uranium hexafluoride into uranium-238 here, as I showed a few minutes ago. I mainly use it to produce plutonium dioxide, which is then used as nuclear reactor fuel. The neutron output from here is heated and sent here. The remaining part goes here for hot molten salt, salt solution, and high energy waste 2. Salt solution joins the lithium chain and high energy waste 2 arrives here and is converted into MOX plutonium oxide and finally into large amounts of plutonium isotopes. That's why I have accumulated tons of plutonium. I want to talk about the mistake I made here. I produced molten salt for hours and stored it in a tailings pond. I thought that I can also store hot molten salt in tailings pond, and I connected the pipes and left the zone. When I returned, the tailings pond was completely empty, and I realized that 700,000 hot molten salt had evaporated during that time. That was extremely frustrating. But since I play with a no reloading all saves unless the entire factory shuts down rule, I kept going. Take my advice, never put hot molten salt into a tailings pond. Casein, chromite sand, lithium chloride and zinc acetate are produced in this area. This zone is dedicated to antimony grade 4. It was my first antimony mine and I'm still using it. I definitely recommend using productivity modules here. I have 11 sulfur mines around the base and I bring all of them here by trains and process it into useful products. This is the food supply for raw Nexelit miners. There is also production of various foods and animals around this zone. Science Pack 1 production is here, and the storage is completely full. I stockpiled huge amount of different science packs, so I don't expect science pack shortages anymore. After building this, I forgot to stop it, and a massive number of arcade coins accumulated. This will easily last until the end of the game. I also made a small mistake with Tollins, actually more like a misread. This is needed for production science packs and I left this for last because it looked easy. I thought I would collect it with just these buildings and be done, but it turns out you need to launch rockets to obtain Tollins. Each rocket carries 5 capsules and each capsule corresponds to 50,000 Tollins. Luckily, launching rockets isn't difficult, and productivity modules make it even easier. All of this gold comes from soot separation. I don't use these much right now, but they will be needed later, especially low density structures. I have plenty of automation science packs, but I will upgrade this area later and produce them with productivity modules. I'm not happy with plastic production at all, and I plan to switch to different recipes soon. This section will be much better in its final form. Serine is required for alien bacteria production. It's important that it works properly. It's not in a great shape right now, but I will fix it. Labs are ready and waiting. There are over 130 research with production science. These labs will be very busy soon. Many different items are produced in this section. Let's take a quick look. The smelters are extremely busy. I supply their fuel from this station and they consume it in massive amounts. Filtration media is used heavily and I produce it using several different recipes. I will reorganize this soon because it's very messy right now. Part of the log and raw fiber production is here as well. And it's also quite messy. I will rebuild this area too. Producing these containers with productivity modules would be much better idea and I will do that soon. Most plates and alloys are produced in this zone. Tin plate production is in a terrible state right now and definitely needs fixing. There are many different items produced in this area and of course missing some ingredients. I will fix them all. Now we have reached silver plate production zone. I mentioned this back in part 6. I thought I had enough molten silver production, but I realized far too late that all of my storage was completely empty. At this point, the most logical move was to wait for the new recipe that will be unlocked with production science. The current recipe only gives 20 molten silver, while the production science recipe produces 450 molten silver, and I already have plenty of the required materials. So in about 10 hours, I should be finally free from this nightmare. This is where I want to talk about a mistake I made. If I were starting from scratch today, I would place alarms on every critical part of the factory. Not doing that slowed me down by dozens of hours. And this wasn't just about silver plates. I ran into the same problem with other items as well. Even when everything looks like it's working fine, a shortage of single ingredient or a deadlocked train can slow your entire factory. With production chains this complex and so many different lines running at once, it can take a very long time to even notice where the real problem is. And once you finally find it, fixing it can easily take hours. My advice is, don't be lazy like I was and use alarms. Set them up for every critical part of your factory. It might feel unnecessary at first, but it will save you a huge amount of time and frustration later on. I built this nickel plate production area in the previous part. It will be expanded soon. In this zone, I produce items that use borax. A bit further up, there is production for several different animals. Acrylic, aerogel, and carbon fiber are produced in this section. I recently built this molybdenum mine because the old one was no longer sufficient. Since my old copper mine depleted, I had to come all the way here. The journey for the ore is extremely long. Some of it comes from here and then travels all the way up to this area. This is my new slaughterhouse section. I don't want these animal parts to be scattered all around the base, so I built this. I will extend it soon. Zinc plate production is located in this zone, and the materials go through a very long journey before becoming plates. Pisces Pack 2 and 3 are produced here. Their storage looks very good. There is also production of log, wood, raw fibers, and tree seeds in this section. Since the output is very high here, I set it up this way. Wood is loaded directly into wagons and it's extremely fast, as you can see. There is another borax production area nearby, but it's almost depleted. This is the third and final molybdenum plate production area. This was actually the first one I built. This section is dedicated to mechanical parts 1. A large number of different items are produced around this zone. I use this fuel in basic oxygen furnaces. It's a little expensive, but it has a great fuel value. This is another annoying item. Producing it with productivity modules from the start would have been a much better choice. I can produce it easily now, since rubber is no longer an issue. But in earlier game, rubber caused major problems for this item. My first tin, aluminum, zinc and nickel mines are located in this section. There is another log, raw fiber and sap production in this area. I upgraded all sap modules to the highest tier, but I want to mention a mistake I made. I underestimated the power of these higher tier modules and started using them far too late. Some of them take a long time to obtain, but once you start producing them, they significantly increase production without needing to add more buildings. This is also very important for avoiding FPS issues later on. Chemical science pack production is located here, and I stockpiled a large amount of it. Military science pack production is also in this area, and storage is fairly full. Even though there are no biters, we still need military science packs because many research require large amounts of them. This section produces simple circuit boards, and right next to it, complex circuit boards. This area isn't so bad like others, at least. There are shortages, but it's manageable for now. We have already seen that tin production isn't sufficient, so I will need to reorganize here as well. I will remove these buildings because this is not a good choice for phenol production. Spent Nexelit batteries are produced here, then converted into Nexelit batteries using a particle accelerator. These are used for Tier 2 bots and as fuel for Tier 3 trains. Most of these will be used in rubber production. And now we are back to the hub. This was a much longer tour compared to previous parts. Since this is the 1000 hour milestone, I wanted to cover the entire base. Aside from the final part, the other parts will be shorter. Lastly, the production charts. That's all for now. Thank you for watching so far. If you enjoyed, please like the video and subscribe for more. See you in the next part.